David and I financially produced a new format. This is the first time PragerU has done a mini documentary. And I met the CEO through Dick Weekly, and I said to her, you know, one of the most stunning contrasts that we've looked at Texas Public Policy Foundation is the contrast between Texas and California. They have similar coastline, they have similar natural resources, similar border with Mexico, similar port situation, and they have vastly different policies and vastly different outcomes. So we're going to look at the film today, and we have the star of the film, Witt, here today, who is a huge social media, internet, electronic media star. And, you know, we're all old here, sadly. But he's like that thing. He's going to save us all. And he came out of Prager Force. And so I'm going to let him explain what Prager Force is. And then we're going to show the film. And then we're going to talk maybe a little bit about what it's like to be on college campuses. So light and easy today. Thank you, Will.
Okay. Oh, well.
Than you. Hi guys, my name is Witt. Apparently I'm here to save all you guys according to Wendy, so that's a lot of
Weight on my shoulders.
I work with PragerU. If you guys haven't heard of PragerU before, we put out short videos on pretty much any topic out there. Politics, history, science, morality, everything out there. We are reaching the next generation. We just hit about 3 billion views on PragerU, and we are now over 8,000 Prager Force students. Prager Force is our student ambassador program. It's all digital, it's all online, and these students are involved, they're sharing conservative values online, and they're really making a difference at their schools and their communities. We have people all over the world. We actually just had an international Prager Force retreat, which was a wonderful thing. We had a kid from Spain come, New Zealand, Colombia. It was an amazing event and really shows the impact that PragerU is making. So my story, I was in Colorado. I was never a conservative. And then I started actually watching PragerU videos. Once I started going to school at CU Boulder, I started becoming a conservative when I was in sociology classes. If you guys know anything about sociology classes, they're not very conservative. And so that's what made me into a conservative. And I started getting very involved, speaking all across Colorado, setting up chapters of different groups, and I eventually got involved with Prager Force, the student ambassador program. This was about three and a half years ago, and I went and made a video on my campus asking women what they thought about the wage gap. Of course, they all thought they were very impressed. And I sent it to PragerU because I love their videos so much when they help me. And they loved the video, they posted it, shared it, and long story short, they gave me a job, and I moved out to Los Angeles. Dropped out of school after 2 years, best decision of my life, and came out to Los Angeles. And when I came out to Los Angeles, when I came out to California, I was like, this is going to be amazing. I'd never been to California before. I was like, it's beautiful there, it's the beaches, and it's going to be so clean and nice, much better than Colorado. And I got there, and I was wrong about everything. I was wrong about absolutely everything. And with this mini documentary that I've made with PragerU and a lot of other wonderful people, including Chuck DeVore with the Texas Public Policy Foundation, we're hoping to make a big change and wake people up to what is actually going on in the state. So without further ado, I won't talk anymore, and let's play the video.
This is California. While this state is known for its glitz and glamour, it is also home to some of the highest real estate prices, highest taxes, highest homelessness population, and highest number of business regulations.
In many parts of the state, you've got tent cities, crime is out of control, schools at the bottom percentile.
There are people who are dying on our streets. The estimate is that 1,000 people will die on the streets of Los Angeles.
All of this, combined with an extremely high cost of living, is forcing residents and businesses to leave the state at record numbers.
I'll tell you, Californians, when they move to Texas, they're shocked. Their standard of living goes up 40 to 50%. overnight.
Is Texas the new California?
The rivalry between Texas and California.
The largest number of people relocating to Texas are coming from California.
And many of us are leaving not only California, but other liberal states for a better lifestyle for our children.
Failed liberal policies are just simply encouraging the situation.
People just saying we can't put up with this anymore. So you just can't live like this.
California and Texas both have large amounts of land, plenty of natural resources, minority-majority populations, and are home to some of the country's biggest corporations. These similarities, matched with their glaring policy differences, makes them perfect for comparison. Over half of Californians are thinking of leaving the state, and the biggest reason why is the sky-high cost of living.
The cost of living in California is somewhere between 40 and 50% higher than it is in Texas.
Houston, you can get a 3-bedroom house for a couple $100,000 with a backyard. Your kids can play. You can throw a ball with your kids in the backyard. You can have a good school. Try doing that in California.
The state and local governments are doing things to restrict the development of new housing units in the free market. And they do this through restrictions on building. They do this through things like rent control, which disincentivizes the creation of new rental units. And a set of disastrous policies have contributed to keeping housing costs fastly growing.
The cost of energy is higher, the cost of gasoline and transportation. Everything costs more in California.
Extensive environmental regulations have also sharply raised the energy costs in California, where they are 50% higher than the national average. Over 1 million Californians live in what is officially defined as energy poverty.
It's very hard on a middle-class income to live in this state. Many of them who were born and raised in this state are realizing that it's become unaffordable, and that's heartbreaking.
The left spends a lot of time and energy talking about income inequality and ways to fix it, but ironically, California, the great progressive experiment, ranks 4th in the list of states with the highest level of income inequality and 2nd in the nation for the fastest growing income inequality. According to the Census Bureau's supplemental poverty measure, California has the highest poverty rate in the country, with 1 in 5 Californians living below the poverty line.
California has always had the nation's highest poverty rate, and proportionately, it's about 30% higher than it is in Texas.
And a third of the people on assistance in the nation are in California.
So how is California handling the growing poverty rate in their state? California spends more than Texas, Arizona, South Dakota, North Dakota, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Oregon, Idaho, Hawaii, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, New Mexico, and Montana on welfare annually combined. State and local governments have spent a gargantuan amount of money, oftentimes wastefully overlapping each other. Yet the incredible spending has not alleviated one of California's most vexing problems. In fact, it seems to have made it worse. Homelessness has taken over California, with the problem developing into a state of emergency. And although homelessness is dropping nationwide, California, with 12% of the population, houses 49% of the nation's homeless.
One of the issues that I face living here is the fear of the homeless epidemic, because a lot of these homeless individuals, they're drug addicts, some are sex offenders, and that's become a huge problem.
There are people defecating on the street right in front of my apartment. We have syringes there. I mean, we have a lot of issues in California that seem to be blinded to, the policies that come out of here, and I don't think the rest of the nation really understands what's happening in California.
And we see this not only here, not only in Skid Row, but from San Diego all the way on up to Sacramento, San Francisco. Every city is being impacted by this.
If California were a country, it would have the 5th largest GDP in the world. California's economic engine is driven by its overshared size of technology giants and small to mid-sized businesses. Because of Californians' hard work and ingenuity, they've been able to create this economic behemoth. Yet this state is trying to slay this golden goose with suffocating business regulations. Over the last 10 years, over 15,000 businesses have fled the state, and the pace is accelerating. While Apple, Google, Facebook, and the other tech giants get talked about the most, it is California's small businesses that are the lifeblood of the state's economy. Companies with less than 100 employees make up 98% of all businesses in the state and employ nearly 40% of its workforce. These businesses are what make California the economic powerhouse that it is.
I haven't made a profit in 5 years, and some of the servers here can make between $40,000 and $50,000 a year because I have to pay them minimum wage and they get tips and I end up with nothing. And that's for a part-time job. It's what is called in the business first phase economics, right? Because it's an emotional choice to feel good about giving the employee more money, never looking at the second phase and what it does to business and how it causes this domino effect of, okay, I have to now let somebody go, right? I have to raise my prices in the restaurant. It's a lose-lose for everybody.
While California embodies the progressive wing of U.S. politics and government's central roles in people's lives, Texas represents a deeply contrasting political ideology and has followed a very different path. The state's focus on individual liberty and personal responsibility stems from its frontier identity and its decade of self-determination as the Republic of Texas. It has voted Republican in every presidential election over the past 36 years. It is difficult to think of a resonant issue being debated today that doesn't find Texas and California on opposite sides of the debate.
Texas is all about freedom. That's really the spirit of Texas. Texas is a state where anybody can start with nothing and achieve anything.
If you look at the U.S. Census Bureau's interstate migration data, you'll see that the greatest number of people leaving California go to Texas.
There are lots and lots of jobs. The economy is growing. There's prosperity. Wages are going up. Low taxes, low regulations, free enterprise. In Texas, we like jobs. I said all of us, I said even the Democrats like jobs. They don't know how to get them, but they like them.
In direct contrast to California, one of the great draws into Texas is the affordable cost of living.
And you see that, for example, with a rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in San Francisco versus Dallas. It's more than 3 times more expensive in San Francisco.
California, a gallon of gas is nearly $4 a gallon. Texas, a gallon of gas is just over $2 a gallon. You want to talk about making a difference. Now listen, if you're a tech billionaire, you don't care about $4 a gallon gas. Your SUV goes to your private jet, you fill it up, and it's all funny money to you. But how about to a school teacher?
People who move to Texas are shocked at their dramatic increase in buying power when you couple low cost of living with Texans keeping more of their take-home pay.
California has the highest taxes, 13.3%. Top marginal tax rate in California, 13.3%. You know what it is in Texas? 0.
Not only are individuals coming to Texas, but so are businesses, and they're coming by the thousands. We met with one of those small business owners who came to Texas, fleeing California's oppressive anti-business environment, bringing with him jobs, capital, and an auto restoration business that over the course of its life grew tenfold in size.
Living in California for 35 years with your business, did you see radical changes happening in that state that made it harder for you to keep your business open?
There were tremendous changes, yeah. Particularly with the regulating body called the Bureau of Auto Repair. That agency, I think, got power hungry to the point where individuals would throw businesses like mine under the bus to try to please customer complaints, no matter how small they were, to further their own careers.
Is there a Bureau of Auto Repair in Texas?
No Bureau of Auto Repair in Texas.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Do you feel like it's easier to live out your dream here in Texas than it is in California?
Oh, it's not even close. Yeah, absolutely. And Texas is a great economy. and it's so easy to be in business, way more freer here in regards to less restrictions, red tape. So I was in the auto repair business in California. It required city fees, it required state fees, environmental fees. You know, you had all that overhead to start with on your shoulders, and then all those regulating bodies to please. Whereas here, you could just immediately open up.
When you think of Texas industry, you think of oil and beef. But the reality is, Texas has as many Fortune 500 companies based there as California, and has an incredibly robust high-tech and startup sector.
Texas innovates, and when it comes to high-tech, you look at Austin, for example, where high-tech companies are moving in like crazy, venture capital companies are moving in like crazy, and hopefully you have hundreds or thousands of small businesses being formed to take on the next big business and the next big business, and it's that creative destruction that drives the economy forward, that innovates. That's what creates opportunities. That's where new jobs come from. That's why young people are moving to Texas, because Texas is where the jobs are. Texas is where you can make a future and provide for your family.
As the cost of living is increasing and the quality of life is decreasing, you're seeing a lot of Californians flee to Texas, flee to Florida, flee to Tennessee, flee to Montana and elsewhere. Nobody wants to just hand over their money. Nobody wants to give up so much of that money that they've earned to the government.
I want to be able to sell as much as I can to make the most amount of profit that I can hire more people and open up a second place, right? But sometimes I don't think I would open a second place here. Maybe that would be in a different state.
The divergent paths that these two states have taken are purely a result of the political choices that they have made. The disastrous results of California's progressive ideology stand in stark contrast to the Lone Star State's conservative policies that have led to the Texas miracle. That was the first time that I actually watched it live too. It was pretty good, I gotta say. I did a good job. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. But it's a lot more than just enjoying something like this. You know, as conservatives, it's easy to watch something and think that, oh, that's, you know, California's problem. They'll handle it. I made this documentary because I don't hate California. That's the reason. Some people think like, oh, you must hate living there. It must be so terrible. You must hate this state. It's like, no, I love California. I live in Hollywood, California. I mean, it is terrible. You see stuff on social media about needles on the ground and poop and homeless and everything. It is true. That happens every day. But I made it because I love California, and it's a place worth saving. I want to save California. You know, there are people who fight. There are people who are supporters of the fighters, and then there are people who do nothing at all. And for myself and all the people at PragerU, we're all fighters. That's why we're in California, because we want to save it. One of the main things that I talk about in any speech that I go to is about never sacrificing your values. This is something that Dennis Prager really ingrained in me. And that has been the most important thing for me working with PragerU and continuing to make things like this, is never sacrificing your values. You know, California used to be a conservative place, right? They had Ronald Reagan. I mean, it was an amazing place for businesses, all these kind of things. The homelessness was never a problem like that. And now look at California when you watch this mini documentary and all the problems that it has. And it's because of leftist policies that California is the way that it is, but it's also because conservatives in California haven't stood up and done anything when they've seen their state being destroyed. If we don't stand up and actually do something about it
everything is going to continue to get worse. I mean, you guys, for the most part, I'm guessing most of you guys live in Houston, Texas. It can happen so fast. So fast in Houston, Texas, everywhere else in this state can look like California in a matter of years if we don't stand up and actually do something about it. I'm guessing you guys don't want Houston to look like Hollywood, California, right? It's a terrible thing, and so we have to stand up and fight. We have to be the fighters and people who support the fighters. We can no longer stand by and just let it happen. So I would love to take any of you guys' questions about the mini documentary, anything about PragerU, or anything that I do. If you guys are unfamiliar with my videos, I go around a lot of the time on college campuses interviewing students about issues. The last time I was in Texas doing a video, I went to UT Dallas, I believe the university was, and I asked students about California. And I asked them, like, what do you think of California? What do you think about Texas? And it's funny, they don't realize that it's conservative policies that make Texas great and leftist policies that have destroyed California. But every single one of them knew that California sucks. Pretty much. Like, you talk to them, they're like, oh, I see on the news how terrible it is, or I don't want to live there. I heard it was great, but now that I see everything, I don't want to live there. And I say, do you know why that is? They say, no, I have no idea why that's happening. Probably because of those evil Republicans. I'm like, okay. We're about to have a long conversation. But that's what's going on college campuses right now, where these young people, a lot of them understand the issues. They understand what is going on, but they've been completely lied to by the mainstream media, their university, and Hollywood. They've been told that conservatives are evil and they're the ones who are responsible for all these problems. So with, again, a mini documentary like this, the videos that I go on college campuses interviewing these students, I do it to expose what the left has done to this country. And you can wake all these students up. It just takes a little bit of a push. And that's what we're doing at PragerU. So any questions, anything, I'd love to answer.
Yeah, you've been on campuses for a while now. Have you noticed any change in the general sentiment of the students? Is it continuing to move left? Is any action going to the right? Where is it?
So he asked, if you couldn't hear him, he asked about if I've been on college campuses, I've been doing this for about 2 years now, and he asked if I've seen any changes, if it's going more left or it's going more right. What I have seen is that conservative students, or people who are not political at all, have started to wake up, and they've gotten even more conservative, and they've gotten braver on their campuses. They've gotten stronger. You know, when I was in college, there were more conservative kids in my class, but I was the only one who spoke up. I'd be in political science, and my teacher would say something stupid, and I would raise my hand and say, no, that's wrong, right? And the other kids would come up to me afterwards and say, hey, man, like, I love what you're doing. Thanks so much for standing up for, I'm too scared to say anything. I'm like, you're a loser. Like, you should be the one saying something too, But now we're seeing that, at least what I've noticed, is that the conservative kids are getting a lot braver and they're standing up. But because of this, it means that the students who are on the left have to also stand up more as well. So it's like the other day, I was at Cal State LA, and I had this guy come up to me, and he said, oh, you're here terrorizing students. I was like, no, I'm just asking questions. And he went and said, no, I'm going to call campus security. And he called the cops on us. The cops come out, they come talk to me and my cameraman, we film all this. And the guy's like, he's terrorizing students, he's dangerous, have you even heard his ideas? They're terrible, he's putting students in danger with his ideas. And the cops are like, it's a free campus, he can do whatever he wants. And you should have seen this kid's face when he walked away. He was very offended and upset. So I think there are changes that are being made. I feel like 2 years ago when I would have done this, police at a campus would have probably kicked us off for something like that, but they've started to wake up. I think the universities are being held more accountable, and I think the students are starting to wise up a little bit. And I think a lot of that is because of again, PragerU videos reaching so many people. They see that in 5 minutes, and they're like, wow, I never even thought of it that way. It's not that these students aren't hearing conservative. It's not that they're not even conservative. It's that they're not hearing where those ideas actually come from. You know what I mean? So.
I want to put this question to you and to my fellow attendees. You're in the persuasion business, and we all try to persuade our friends who don't necessarily agree with us. And on any given issue like healthcare, education, crime, and what have you, we know that the left liberal side is going to come back with elaborate arguments, and we can anticipate that with rebuttal, and there's rebuttal to rebuttal to rebuttal. But on this issue, I'm curious, what does someone who is a sophisticated left liberal with an arsenal of arguments. What does that person say in response to the question? The blue model doesn't seem to work. The proof of it is that 1,000 people a day move to Texas and other conservative states.
Right. Well, they have a lot of answers for that. I mean, one of the things they talk about is that there's a surplus in the Texas, or not in Texas, in the California economy. They use something like that to justify, oh, California has plenty of money. That surplus is not going to last, especially with the public pension crisis, which we weren't able to mention in this, but that is a huge issue, and PragerU actually has a video on it. And they also say that California is doing so wonderful progressively. I mean, things like energy and stuff like that, they'll tout, oh, we have so much green energy now in California, it's doing so well, the big tech companies are doing so well, making tons of money. I mean, Silicon Valley is one of the richest places in America. They tout things like this and say, no, you say these things, but California is actually doing very well. And then they say, you as a conservative, when you talk about the homelessness and poverty and stuff, they say it's because conservatives don't care. They say these things are happening because conservatives don't care about these people. And so again, it's a framing issue. It's a framing issue that is something that we as conservatives have to get around because we've let the left take control of the argument. To blame it on conservatives, to blame it on, you watch CNN or anything, it's always Trump's fault for all these things. So we have to flip the narrative and say, look, all of these things are because of leftist policies. We can show 100% that something like higher minimum wage laws lead to job loss and businesses falling. We can show that huge welfare spending actually makes more people be in poverty. We can show that with actual facts and numbers. But again, we have to frame it in a way that they'll actually understand. I did a video came out I think 2 weeks ago, where I went to a campus, and this isn't about Texas and California, but just using it as an example, where I was talking about how do you stop a bad guy with a gun. That was the premise of the video. And I went there, and I talked to these students, and I was able to change every single young person's mind there about the gun issue, and I never even had to say I was a conservative. And that was the biggest thing for me. You're able to educate people without coming across as some MAGA hat wearing person just pushing it on people, and you're able to change minds that way. So you have to think about when you're talking to people or they give you their arguments, how do you frame it so that you can actually change their mind?
I don't know if you have the statistics of the 600,000 people that have moved to Texas. Do you know if they are believers in a conservative platform, or are they liberals will be changing our platform?
So she asked you here if a lot of the people who are moving to Texas and other conservative states, if they're actually conservative, or if they're all the left-wing people who are actually moving. And to tell you the truth, it's actually a lot of conservatives who are moving out of California and moving into states like Texas and Nevada, Montana, and elsewhere. So it's actually a good amount of conservative people, which is a good thing because they're going to know what happened to California and come here to Texas and influence it that way. But again, of course, there are lots of left-wing people as well who are coming into places like Austin and Dallas and really trying to make it look like California. And that is, again, about, I keep saying this, but it's about the framing of the argument, because those people know that California is a terrible place for them to live. That's why they moved. But they don't know why. They don't understand why their state is so terrible. They think it's just that way because it is. So we have to wake them up and tell them why.
As a father of currently 3 teenagers in the house, most of what you guys do is short format.
Right.
And this is a really interesting experiment in long format, right? How do you think that's going to get processed by your target audience in terms of the long versus short? Do you have any ideas and metrics for
Yeah, so this actually just came out this morning, and it hasn't even released on social media yet. It's only on our website, prageru.com/fleeingcalifornia. So I can't give you exact metrics of how it's doing or anything like that, but I can tell you that through a direct email campaign for PragerU for this documentary, we got thousands upon thousands of emails from people who were excited to see this. They gave us our email, or they gave us their email so that they could sign up to see this as soon as it came out, and the campaign was extremely successful. People were very, very excited to see this. They were very excited to see PragerU get into something more long form so that we can actually break down issues a little bit more. And again, it's not, for something like YouTube, a 15-minute video like this is pretty standard. Actually, a lot of videos on the platform are at least over 10 minutes, so this is nothing new for that. For something like Facebook or Instagram, it is longer content, but from the excitement that we've seen so far from this, it's been absolutely incredible, and I think people are really latching on. And we're already starting to think about
new ones in the process. So I think it's going to do very, very well.
Can you talk a little bit more about Prager Force and how it supports kids who are standing up and pushing stuff out?
Right, so Prager Force, again, is our student program with PragerU. We have about 8,000 students in the program. And it's a place where students can actually feel like they have a community of people to talk to, right? Like so many of these students on campus, like think about a conservative kid who goes to where I went, CU Boulder, or let's say UC Berkeley, or even at a school in Austin. They probably feel very alone with their conservative values, right? There aren't a whole lot of people for them to talk to. So when you join a digital program like Prager Force, you're then able to connect with students all across the world who share the same values and ideas with you. So we'll do videos and things on social media, and let's say you guys heard of like Now This or AJ Plus, Al Jazeera, BuzzFeed News, anything like that. A BuzzFeed or a Now This will post a video talking about socialism, and they'll say how great socialism is. And through Prager Force, with our student program, we will send all of these students, we call it the swarm, and they'll go into the comments of that video and they'll start posting our videos. The swarm. And it's an amazing thing. That is the power of having students online who are able to get on social media, who know the platforms, and through training from people like me, who has done, I've gotten about 500,000 followers on social media over the last 2 years from training from me and other people who are in the Prager Force program. It's been remarkable to see just the work that they've been able to do. And the numbers just keep on growing. We're getting tons and tons of interest and students who just love our program. So, and we have a retreat actually for that. We had the international retreat before, and then we have a USA retreat in Los Angeles. I believe it's going to be at the end of June. We're really looking forward to that. About 50 of our best students who are going to come out and enjoy a day or about a week with me and Dennis Prager and learn a lot from the PragerU team. So,
how is Prager Force different from Turning Point USA?
There's a lot of differences. So Prager Force is completely online. And this is our strength. A lot of things with Turning Point USA, they'll do their big conferences and they have their chapter clubs. That's not how we operate. We are much more focused on digital because that is where everyone is watching their content. So when we have students who are posting the videos, we'll put out a new video. Our 5-minute videos come out on Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. And so we'll put out a new video, and we have 8,000 people off the bat sharing that video as soon as it comes out. And that is something that, that sets us apart. We are a digital platform, first and foremost, a marketing team, really first and foremost. So the Prager Force Army is like what we like to call it, is all online and is able to get those ideas out to way more people than just their college campus at a meeting. We're able to get it out to millions of people every single day when we have Prager Force students sharing our videos. So it's different in that way, that it's all digital, not really a physical entity like that. But again, we do have some of the meetups and stuff for some of the best students so that we can show them how wonderful they really are and how much we appreciate them. Any other questions? Anything else?
What's your website called?
PragerU.com. So that's PRAGER and then the letter U.com. You can check us out there. And to watch this is PragerU.com/fleeing California. Send it to everyone you know. Send it to your kids, please. That'd be great.
Okay, can you discuss a little bit sort of college-age students' fascination with socialism and what the attraction is there?
Yeah, well, it's free stuff. Really, that's the attraction of socialism. But it's also more than that. America right now is the best place in the world, okay? A young person growing up has so many opportunities, so many good things going for them. They have everything they need on their phone. They really have nothing to worry about, This isn't the 1800s anymore or 100 years ago where people were worried about, when they're going to get their next meal and stuff like that. They have it so good and they don't understand it. So when you have something that is so good and these students have everything they need, they create problems for themselves. They feel very complacent. And so they look at America and they say, capitalism is evil because I don't have what this other person has. I'm in college and I'm broke. I'm working at Taco Bell and I have no money. I deserve to have more money. And they think that they deserve it. And that's a big problem. So with PragerU, again, we are educating on socialism. And I did a video, the video that I did where I got kicked off of campus, or they tried to kick me off campus with the police about 2 weeks ago, was actually about socialism. I went to the campus and I asked students, I said, hey, can you define socialism? And they're like, oh, it's like
talking to each other. We're talking to each other right now, right? I was like, no, that is not socialism. But a lot of them, when you ask them what socialism is, the ones who actually were a little more informed than that, they would say it's equality. They say socialism is equality. Everyone gets an equal share. And then I was like, okay, define capitalism. And they're like, evil, terrible, right? But again, just like I did with that gun video, I highly recommend you check that one out, and this one will come out next Wednesday about socialism. I was able to change every single person's mind going in there and talking to them because I gave them the real truth and not from again, like a super hardcore conservative standpoint. I said, no, here is actually what's going on. Socialism is evil. It is not about equality. It is about government bureaucrats controlling your life. I used the example, I said, have you ever been to the DMV? Right? You guys been to the DMV? It's the worst place in the whole world. I hate it. And I said, okay, now imagine your healthcare being controlled by those people. And they're like, wow, that sucks. That is a terrible thing. And you use things like that and you're able to change these people's minds. But yeah, young people right now, I mean, it was 70% of young people said that of millennials said that they would vote for a socialist candidate. And that's a very scary thing. So.
I just had a suggestion. I think you should add how much our property taxes are here in Texas, and that might slow down some of the flow of California.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That is a good idea.
So I'm a parent of teenagers. Do you have any suggestions for making sure your teenagers don't go off to college and become crazy liberals?
Join Prager Force, first and foremost. Get them to join our student program. Are they conservative now already?
So far, so good.
Okay, great. Have them join Prager Force. And I know so many people talk to me about the same question. I have two answers. The first thing I'll say, if they don't need college, they don't have to go to college. Because I dropped out, and you don't necessarily need college anymore to be successful in your life. Okay, I truly, truly believe in that. But if they do want to go to college, they still do. It's important that you stay connected with them. One of the reasons why I was on the left when I was starting out in college and in high school is because I was not very connected with my family. I had very poor family values. I thought I was in college doing my own thing, who cares? And I squandered a lot of time, and that was my own fault. I didn't take responsibility for a lot of the stuff that I did. So once I started waking up and being more conservative, I found the family values were the most important thing in my life, reconnecting with my mom, my grandparents, and that was incredibly important to me. And that really drove me to be more conservative, really, because that's what it's all about. You find that the left, in a sense, demonizes families. That's what, to me, it's one of the biggest issues going on in America right now, that the left demonizes the family structure that's been going on. So I think that the strongest thing that you can do as a parent is to keep your family very close and have them know that they need to appreciate you and all the things that you're doing. So, yeah. Any other questions? Anything else? Okay. Well then, great. Thank you so much.